Okay, friends, let's talk. If you follow me on Instagram, TikTok, you already know I read Watch Me and was severely disappointed. This video is about that. I will mark when we get the spoilers. For now, let's just talk non-spoiler wise. Let's just talk in general. Let's put out some disclaimers first, I think. So I want to say that I have not had the best track record with Dahara's latest releases. I have a whole other video on that. I hated these Infinite Threads, hated the direction series took, etc. Whatever. That's for other series. I don't like her contemporaries. Pretty consistent on that side. Shatter Me though. Shatter Me is a series very near and dear to my heart. I love the Shatter Me series. I can't tell you the years it came out because it came out when I was in middle school. But as it was coming out, that series was everything to me. It was like the age of dystopia, the age I really got into reading, right? Like Hunger Games, Divergent, Shatter Me, Delirium, etc. All these books were coming out and I was just thriving in books. And Shatter Me was one of the few series that even after I stopped reading, because at a certain point, like I went to high school, I was taking AP classes. If you know my reading journey and I've talked about it, I went like a good amount of years. I didn't read anything other outside of like assigned readings and the latest Shatter Me books. There was a good set of years where the only books I was pre-ordering and buying that weren't for school were the Shatter Me books, because at a certain point there was the original trilogy and the second trilogy that came out later. So what I'm trying to convey here is I'm a fan of this series. I'm a fan of the Shatter Me series. I own every Shatter Me book there is, okay? All the novellas. You can't see it because they're on that side of my shelves. There's a whole side of my bookshelf. There's a whole half of the shelf over here that's just out of frame is the Shatter Me series. Right under Dark Shade of Magic. You can kind of see it. So what I'm trying to establish here is, yes, I have a track record for not liking Tahara's latest releases, but I was genuinely excited as a fan for Watch Me. And let's give credit where credit due. This is a gorgeous book, okay? Let's just say, like, I am not getting rid of this copy just because of how pretty it is. Let's just say that. And I have evidence of this. The video where I talk about my anticipated releases for April and I talk about Watch Me, I'm gonna clip it because I was excited. So you see Warner in like a new space and oh, it's going to be so good. The point I'm trying to make here is this is not me being a hater. This is me genuinely, as a fan, disappointed, and I want to talk about it. Because let's just talk about it. Okay, so that's one disclaimer out of the way. Like, this is not me hating. I'm gonna hate a little bit because there are parts of this I need to talk about. My second disclaimer: if you are somebody who is not a fan of negative reviews, this video is not for you. I've always been very transparent. I give negative reviews. I talk about my negative opinions with books. I try to be as constructive as I can as possible. Sometimes you just have to hate a little bit. If you are somebody who does not like negative reviews, like I'm doing this spiel again, I do it in a lot of the videos where I talk negatively about books, go ahead and scroll. This video is not for you. I always maintain that I'm going to be 100% honest with my opinions. Like, you cannot buy my opinion, nor will I just not say anything if I don't like a book, because I read books my friends recommend. I read books people I follow recommend. You know, when you get to the point where you trust somebody with their reviews and their recommendations to pick up the next book you're gonna read. There are people, that's not me tooting my own horn or anything, there are people who rely on my recommendations, so I always strive to be as honest and transparent as possible. If I don't like a book, you're gonna know I didn't like the book. And you know, Watch Me is just one of those books where I have a lot to say, so it had to be a YouTube video. So that's my disclaimer. If you are a huge fan of this book, if you loved it and you don't want to hear anything negative, by all means, go ahead and scroll and no hard feelings. And by the way, this is not going to be a video of me telling people, don't go read this series, don't go read this book, because I love the Shatter Me series, as I've established. And I know Watch Me did it for some people. I've seen videos already of friends and mutuals who loved it, and I'm so happy for them. And I wish that had been my experience, but unfortunately it was not, so now we're going to talk about it. Disclaimer's out of the way. Is it a little silly I have to disclaim so much? Yes, but you know what? It is what it is. I don't have the mental capacity for internet fights, so that's just to get like all of that out of the way. If we're just going to tussle in the comments, well, I'm not going to tussle because I won't engage. Let's just not. Unfortunately, most of this video will be spoilers. I'm going to give a really quick non-spoiler review before I just dive into the spoilers. I kind of already did this on TikTok, but I've had a couple days to think and be a little more constructive with it. So this is what I will say. My biggest critique of this book, I have two giant non-spoiler critiques of this book that I can tell you. One is the length. This is short. I can't pull up. It's, you know, it's not that short compared to the other Shatter Me books, but when you look at how much was like crammed in here and like where we tried to go with this plot, we did not have enough space in this book to flesh out much, if that makes sense. So is it super, super short in comparison to other YA novels and the other Shatter Me books? No. But for what this book was trying to do, it was too short. So there was a lot of setup, and then we saw very little of it pay off to anything for the first book in the series because of how short it was. It had come to a point where I was reading and I sobbed for the night because I was getting frustrated with the book, which is like the first sign that like I'm not the book's not going the right direction for me. Because for me to stop a book, as readers we always talk about like when you step way past what you're supposed to because you're so engrossed in the book. This book was not doing that for me because I literally stopped. My mom was like, "You're going to bed already?" And I was like, I can't get into it. I had thought that I was still in the first half of the book where I stopped the first night, and I was at 63%. I was like, there's no way. How are we already this far in when we're still being set up for things? And I was reading on my ebook. Is how so I couldn't tell because the copy came later. So that's my biggest thing, is the length was too short. So either the book needed to be longer or we shouldn't have been setting up for that long. 2, my second biggest issue with this book is I had somebody in my DMs call it character assassination, and I think that's an apt description. I loved James, who is the main character of this book. This book takes place, is it 10 years later? I love James in the original series. He was so near and dear to my heart, and I was so excited for this book for that reason. I was like, I love James. See him and Warner's dynamic. I was so ready for it all, guys. This is like devastating to me, by the way. And I hated his character in this book. There are parts of James I loved. Especially James in the beginning. I was like, yes, I'm vibing. This makes sense. Like, look at him. I was laughing. He's charismatic. You know, I'm seeing elements of Adam, Kenji, and Warner in him. I'm like vibing. And then his decisions the rest of the series, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And we're going to get into the spoiler part of that later. But just from a non-spoiler perspective, because I can't say much, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you... Oh, if I could... We're gonna talk in a second. Yeah, the character decisions, and that's just, it's not just for James, and the other parts of it will have to be in the spoiler portion of this video. The character decisions and the length and the lack of plot. What it really felt like, and I kind of said this in my TikTok video, that this book was written knowing it's going to be part of a series, and therefore not much like went into this. I don't know if it's been announced how many books will follow Watch Me, but this one really read like, okay, well, you'll find out in the next book anyway, so I'm like, huh? You wanted a long series? So there wasn't much giving into this because you'll find out in the next book. Like, if I was reading this when the whole series had released, I'd immediately need to pick up the next one, and I would need, like, if the next one is structured like this, I would need, like, 2 of them to feel like a full book. I feel like there was no complete arc in this one, which is one of my big issues. Okay, so now I really need to get to the spoiler, because that's too much to say. We're gonna move to the spoiler section. 2 stars, by the way. If I don't know if I said that in the video yet. 2 stars. Let's talk spoilers. I'm gonna put this up so I can... It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. So pretty. Let's talk spoilers. Okay, so I said we're talking spoilers. If you haven't read Watch Me, if you don't want to be spoiled, go away. We're gonna talk spoilers. My first thing. Juliet's pregnant. Why is Juliet pregnant? And I'm saying, I want people to understand I'm saying this as somebody who wants to have children later, like who wants to be a mom. I'm not anti-pregnancy at all. Why is Juliet pregnant? You know, when the teaser was dropped, everyone was like, oh, she's pregnant, because there's like a teaser and Warner mentions that Juliet's been like beside herself, worried about James, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, maybe, and then for a second I'm like, that's cute, and I'm like, wait, that feels so out of character for not just Juliet, but also Aaron, Warner. It feels so out of character for their characters to have kids. And, like, I don't have evidence of this, but I feel like I remember, this was right after Imagine Me came out. Back when Imagine Me came out, this was before I was online as a book content creator. I remember watching one of Tahara's lives. I'm telling you guys, I was such a fan. I, like, watched everything. And I think somebody had asked on the live, like, Aaron and Juliet gonna have kids now because they get married at the end of the series. And I think she said something about, like, how that wasn't, like, in the cards for them. And somebody like Warner wouldn't want kids. And I'm not quoting word for word. I don't have evidence. This is a memory. And that's why, like, she's like, yeah, like, they could do a dog, but not a kid. And also, when I read this book and she's pregnant, I'm like, huh? Because even if she hadn't said that, even if Sahara hadn't said that, and I could be wrong, by the way, like, 100%, we're going off of my memory here. I'm paraphrasing, could be wrong. Even if she hadn't said that, looking at their two characters, it doesn't make sense. The way they grew up, their trauma, it feels very out of place. This is not my biggest issue with the book. I just needed to get this off my chest and tell somebody who's read it, and I'm assuming if you watch this you have, because I was losing my mind. That's not my biggest issue. I get it. And somebody I talked to pointed out, maybe she changed her mind. Plenty of women do. That's 100% true. As a reader, just going off the information we're getting from the books, it felt very out of character, and also kind of felt like a way to almost sideline Julia as one of the most powerful people in this world that's just created in Shatter Me. I kind of get the need to, so the new characters can have their own story, but it just felt very obvious that it was almost like an attempt to sideline her a bit. Like I said, it just felt out of character. I'm gonna keep talking about the OG characters for a bit. So I said I gave this book 2 stars. Those 2 stars are for Warner and for Kenji. Best parts of this book. If we're gonna talk positives of this book, Warner and Kenji carried this book. I love Aaron Warner. He's been the love of my life since whenever I discovered this series. I was like, what, 13, 14? Love of my life since. He's been the blueprint ever since. Like, truly, every book I've read and I've, like, Meet the Love Interest, I'm like, against Aaron Warner? Like, so every moment of Aaron Warner, and seeing him as a 30-year-old, by the way, as somebody who was a fan of this series when it first released, it's honestly really cool to feel like these characters are aging with me. Because like I said, I started when I was like, we're gonna say 14. I don't remember exactly when this book came out when I read it. And now I'm 25. So that was cool. And I loved all of Warner's scenes. Warner, iconic as always. You see his caring side. You see his, like, more scary, I guess, for lack of a better word, side. Kenji, hilarious as ever. Although on Kenji's note, why didn't Azira break up with him? Once again, just felt very random. And maybe there's a reason. They kind of hinted she's back at the end, and we'll get a reason. But when we get to a scene where Kenji's talking about how Nazira left to go be with some, I don't know. I forget what reason they said, but I was just like, because it seemed very strange. I think Winston also broke up with the person he was with. I'm looking on who, Brandon? But at least for Kenji and Nazira's, we got so much development for them in the last 2 books, or last 3 books of the original series, that I'm like, and it seemed like it had been a fresh thing, and I was just like, it seemed like a very odd thing to do. I don't know. I'm, like, questioning. I don't know why they broke up. Like, there wasn't enough reasoning for it to make sense. You know what it is? If we had seen part of the breakup, if we had seen character development from both of them, and, like, even in a novella or something, and understood why they went that way, I'd get it. But it just seems very abrupt. And maybe there's reasoning for it, and maybe it's just meant to, like, be realistic. Like, 2 people who get together in the middle of a war, 10 years later, most likely wouldn't be together. I get that. These are all, like, my minor things with the book. So we've covered the original characters. Adam is chilling. He's being a dad. That's cool. Adam, I have no issues with Adam. The rest of the OG characters, like, we're good. We're chilling. Let's talk James. And let's talk this new character, Rosa. Actually, before I do that, I want to give credit where credit's due. Let me talk about the rest of the parts of the book I liked. So I said Warner, Kenji, amazing. I really, really, really enjoyed the setup of the book. Like, when I don't remember how much a part of the book, first quarter, when we're in the, what's the name of it? The island they're on that still has the rest of the reestablishment. When we meet Rosa, we meet all this, and we see all this tech, we meet Klaus, this weird mind thing. I'm like, I'm so invested, you guys. I'm like, this is amazing. I love world building. And the world we are getting, I am so invested. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm like scared. I'm getting freaked out. I'm like, look at all this. Look what they're bringing back to Aaron and Julia. Like, this is gonna be crazy. So the setup was so good. The world, we learned that there's still such a huge portion of the reestablishment hiding. They still have an enemy they're facing. They still have all this crazy mind tech that we see in the end of the first series. I am like, this is so good. And this is why maybe I'm so disappointed, because it was set up. The potential was there. The introductions that are made, the lore we learned, all that was set up so well. And I'm like, okay, like, do something with this now. And nothing was done with it. But, like, that's what's so frustrating. What is worse than a bad book is when you see the potential and you're like this, like, and you're mourning what could have been. The way Watch Me is set up and what we learn and the tech and what I've said that a million times already. I'm like, we're good. Like, we're going to have. I'm so invested. And then nothing happens. Okay, so up until I'll tell you, my issue started once we leave the island and get back to the reestablishment. That's where my issues with it start. Up until then, this is so good. Let me tell you. Up until then, I'm having such a good time. The setup. Rosa seems really intense. Her past seems hella traumatizing. I definitely cried with her scenes with her sister and like the thoughts she has and the breakdown she has. And he's like, when's the last time you had a meal? I'm like, I'm in it, bro. I'm like, this is so sad. Like, fully involved. And that's what I'm gonna tell you. James is at his peak. He's like such a good balance of Kenji and Warner. If he's like quick on his feet, he like knows they're watching him, still cracking jokes. I loved seeing his healing powers in combat. So good. And then we get back to not the reestablishment. We get back to where everyone else is. I'm blanking on the name. The one they modeled after Omega Point, whatever, home base, HQ. And I felt like everyone was just making the dumbest mistakes. And I know as the reader, we were exposed to like Klaus's plan and that Rose is a plant and she's intending to hurt them. But even without knowing that, Warner, Juliet, Kenji, James even, everybody there has been through a war. Everyone there has been through the reestablishment. For them to be almost like silly and lax with somebody from the outside, you know, is coming from the reestablishment and you know what they're capable of. Why? Like, you know, this is what I'm trying to say is like, they know Rosa is dangerous, right? She literally killed James the minute she saw him and he, like, whatever, survived. They know the reestablishment can play with the mind stuff, right? They know all of these things. They know, and Warner was like drilling that to James, like how dangerous she is. And yet, they're gonna put her in a rehabilitation center with no surveillance. And James was like, there was like some weird insta-lovey thing going on between James and Rose. And I get, like, I've read enough YA, right? I get the initial attraction stuff. I get all that. But this isn't a contemporary, right? This is a fantasy sci-fi, whatever. This is an intense situation. You know what she's capable of. You've witnessed war yourself. Why are we being so stupid with our decisions? Is this plot armor? Like, I don't get it. Like, why are we acting that way? I have two trains of thoughts with this. One, why is, like, everyone just being so lax about this? Why are we not being more intense about this person in our midst who... And Warner clocked it from the beginning, right? Like, she's there to, like, do something to us, hurt us. She's trying to... like, I think actually Kenji was the one who said it, like, you should have killed her. Like, why'd you bring her here? Because it's dangerous. So, all the adults, Kenji, Warner, Julia, etc., should have been like, no, like, constant surveillance. What do you mean no surveillance? I can't get over that. What do you mean no surveillance for this person from the enemy? Like, she's essentially, right, their enemy. I don't know how else to word this. For this enemy who you know can kill people in the midst of your areas. What do you mean no surveillance? What do you mean no surveillance? Like, it's just dumb decisions. It just feels stupid. It feels stupid and it feels out of character. The second part of that is James. And by the end of the book, I was so done with James. And I am so sad that it ended up that way because it, like I said, insta-love happened, and which felt very out of character. And then he was also not acting like somebody who grew up in the situation we knew he grew up in. Like, he was being stupid. He was being silly. And I get it. He's a teenager, right? I forgot how old is he in this book. And I get teenagers act stupid, whatever, hormone-driven, etc. I get that. I read YA mostly. Like, I always take everything you do with a grain of salt with the knowledge that they're teenagers, right? Frontal lobes have not developed. But it doesn't make sense. Like, there's this one portion of the book, which also felt kind of weird, where, like, James and Warner have this argument, and it's almost like a Russian Olympics. It's a little silly, and Juliet calls him out. Like, I don't have an issue with that scene. But they're like, oh, but you don't know what I've gone through, and you don't know what I've gone through. And James says a lot of things we actually, I feel like, didn't know before, unless I missed it. about the situations and the hardships he'd been in as a kid when Adam was still serving in the military, in Sector 45. And like his brain was so tough, and I'm like you're so right. He's saying he has all this past and all this trauma, and because of that he's smart and he's seasoned, he could do this on his own, blah blah blah, and then go and make the stupidest decisions. Like you're falling for someone you met a week ago, and therefore making dumb decisions that's going to endanger everybody. That was like my biggest thing. Like you're supposed to be smarter, and like it doesn't line up with the rest of his character, right? His backstory and his current actions are not making sense. They're not meeting for me. It just felt like I wanted to take everyone in this book and shake them and be like, what are you doing? We forgot about the plot line and the danger, and instead, because we wanted to instead focus on like this romance that I was supposed to like be invested in. But the entire time I'm like, what are you doing? She's dangerous. The entire time he's making these dumb decisions, and they're all making these stupid decisions, and he's like, I don't even know, like she literally stabs a man in the throat in front of him, and he's like asking if she's okay, and I'm like, what are you doing? It really got me at the very, very end, like the ending scene. There's one scene where like they finally decide to do something about Rosa and treat her like the enemy she is. And by the way, this is not me saying I don't like Rosa. Rosa's a complex character. I'm gonna get to in a second. This is just talking about their actions with what they know. Okay, so we know more than they know. There's a scene at the end where he's finally like escorting her away and blah blah blah, and even I forget who takes her from him, or like someone else like puts handcuffs on her, and they're being so harsh, and he's like getting mad at them, and I'm like, what are you doing? Honestly, my perspective on this, in that whole captive situation that you have somebody from the enemy in your area, is that Warner, or like leadership in general, should have had a bigger role. That would have made more sense. Because James was just making dumb decisions. I understand that this is a book, and things need to happen a certain way for the plot to proceed. It felt like it was too obvious that mistakes were being made for the sake of allowing the story to continue. Like, it's not just that as a reader was disagreeing with the plot choices, it felt like overly obvious that these characters were out of character, were acting a certain way, things were progressing a certain way to continue the series. And on that note, when I called this book a cash grab, I said it in my review, I think I said on TikTok too, it's not something I say lightly. 100% authors this is their business. This is how they make money, 100%. I 100% get that. You will never see me faulting an author for chasing a bag. That being said, if it is like ridiculously obvious that books are being published because you want your audience to continue buying books, like genuinely, I say this as somebody who buys every book Tahara releases, except for The Swollen Kingdom anymore, because I don't like the series anymore. Like, I say this as somebody who's purchased every book the publisher did not send me this, I bought this. As a consumer, it is obvious to me. Not saying that as a reviewer, not saying that as book is best man, the person who bought this book with her money, who continues to buy Tahara's books, this felt very, very obvious that this was just we just wanted like a cash grab. We just wanted more money to make money off of the Shatter Me fans. And then this book, super short so that we can publish more, and I don't know, serves no purpose, truly. I lived for the moments I got of the characters I hold so dear to my heart. I lived for those moments, but the rest of this, what a waste of my time. And I always feel bad when I'm this harsh, but that's the reality, right? I'm just speaking honestly. Really quick, because my camera's about to die. Let me talk about Rosa really quick. I think Rosa, we have so much to explore with her. I think she's one of the most interesting parts of this book. And I think there's so many directions we could go with her. I honestly don't have too much criticism on Rosa's character. I think she's interesting. I think the plot and the way the other characters react fails her, because it's making things a little bit too easy for her, almost. And she's really somebody, like, we could really get in there and explore her trauma and explore her reaction and explore her developments. And I hope the next books do. I might pick up the next book just to see where this goes, but the plot, what plot? The story fails her. Like I said, at a certain point I feel like I'm being mean, but like, I have to say what I have to say. Like, it is what it is. This book was, I'm so, like, still so upset by how disappointing this book was. I can't say anything besides that I'm just upset because I was a fan, because I still am a fan of the original series. And the thing with the cash grab, I'm gonna say one more thing about it and then I'm gonna stop, is it's not the first time. The Shatter Me was originally a trilogy, right? I remember that when it came out. And then we decided to release 3 more books. I bought every single book that came out. I've said this. And for those 3 books, you know, the plot wasn't there, but the characters were. So I was still rating them high because I'm like, I was just there to see Warner and Juliet's relationship develop, to see Kenji, to see, not really Adam, but to see my favorite characters. I was there for nostalgia. But even as I was buying every book that was coming out, I'm like, this feels like a cash grab. Like, we're putting these out just because we know people will buy them. And now we're doing it again with Watch Me, and I'm just like so disappointed. And the thing is, it's like, as much as I am somebody who's like, yes, authors keep releasing books out of the series I love so much, take us back to this world, blah blah blah, maybe sometimes it's better when they don't. Maybe sometimes it's better when we let these characters and their stories rest. That's not to say, like, I think the series shouldn't have happened. I wanted this, like, I wanted these stories, but maybe in a different way. This just feels like somebody wants to, like, this just feels like we're setting up for another 5 or 6 book series. I don't know how long the series is. And we're going to drag it out as long as possible. And I'm like, but these are characters we know. So we can't just be making these decisions and have them act this way and expect everyone to just eat it up. This is my lowest rated book of the year. Biggest disappointment of the year so far. It is what it is. I don't know, man. I don't know. I am genuinely, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Like, this is not me being a hater. This was not me hate reading. I went in with high hopes, and to have them dashed, I was devastated. Yeah. All that to say, because my camera's at 5%, this book devastated me. If you were a fan of the series and you read it and you had other opinions and you loved it, man, I'm so happy for you. I wish that had been my experience. Will I pick up the rest of the series as they come out? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll give it one more book, and then I'm just gonna stick to reading the Warner snippets online because that's what I'm there for anyway. I had told some people in my DMs, they're like, should I pick it up? And I was like, listen, if you're there just for the Warner content the way I was, just read the snippets online. Because those were the best parts of the book. Yeah, if you read the book and you have thoughts to share with me, by all means, I'm always open for a constructive and polite conversation in my comments. I will respond. We can talk about it. Always, I'm more than happy to talk books as long as it's in a constructive and politeful manner. If you're like, yes, I love this book and actually I want to tussle in the comments, it's not happening. I don't tussle online. Feel free to leave the comments. So that's engagement for me, but I'm not going to respond if we're just going to be mean. And I only just say that because I know how intense some people are about their favorite books, and I kind of get it, right? Like, I have favorite books, and when I see a bad review, it kind of hurts me inside. But you know what I do? I keep scrolling. Unless I have something constructive to say, unless I'm going to have a conversation, I keep scrolling. But yeah, that's that's the review. Like I said, if you read the book and we want to talk about it, let's talk in the comments. Spoilers in the comments, I guess, for people. If you've watched this far, you know there's spoilers. I'm literally hoarse from talking. But yeah, that's the video. I will see you guys next time. Bye.